well, welcome everyone. My apologies for the late start of this session. We were experiencing some technical difficulties, but while we have resolved these issues, I would like to give you a warm welcome to this session focusing on the future of work tapping into Africa's talent potential. My name is Myrthe from the Gaast, and I am a project coordinator at NABC. This session is part of a larger conference called the Digital Africa Business Days. And we thought it was an interesting opportunity for you to also present the match project that NABC is implementing in cooperation with IOM the Netherlands for tapping into connecting Dutch companies with finding qualified young African talents in Nigeria and Senegal. We are joined today by two very insightful speakers. We are joined by Mirjam Zimmermann, who is from a project, working on a project called Afrika Kommt. And we're also joined by Geertrul, who is from IOM, and who will be presenting today on really the various labor mobility schemes, the work that IOM has been doing over the years, and really focusing on some of the interesting topics on how the future of labor might look like, and some of the other interesting challenges that we are facing. So without any further ado, I don't want to take any more of your time, considering the time considerations we have for today. So I would like to give the floor to you, Geertrul, and I will see if I can start your presentation right now. And then, yes, please take over.
Thanks a lot, and very happy to join you for this session today. My name is Geertrul, and I work at the IOM regional office in Brussels. And today I'll be talking about IOM's view on labor mobility and indeed how we can tap into Africa's talent potential. Good. So the future of work tapping into Africa's talent potential. I think it's a very good topic for the day, and I would like to share our views as IOM on labor and skills mobility, starting with a short introduction about the context that we see in Europe and Africa's labor markets, the impact, of course, also of COVID-19 on labor mobility, a bit also looking at the recent policy developments at the EU level, so the new EU Pact on Migration and Asylum, and then finally, of course, IOM's approach with a few examples of IOM's labor and skills mobility projects. So perhaps to start first with indeed the context that we see in Europe today. We all know Europe is an aging continent. Our population is actually shrinking if we wouldn't have migration. There are forecasts that say that the EU's working age population would reduce by 9%. So that's quite a lot, and that also translates in a number of skill shortages, labor shortages that we see in different sectors in the European labor market. So if we don't address this will really be detrimental to the European economic growth. And this is why the EU and a number of member states are also increasingly looking into labor migration as one of the policy solutions to address these challenges. So as I said, in Europe, we see a labor market where there's a shrinking workforce, growing labor and skill shortages. And in Africa, of course, we see exactly the opposite. If we can move to the next slide, please. Africa is characterized by a rapid population growth. Here there are forecasts that say that the population would actually double by 2050. So a complete different picture from what we see in Europe. It also means, of course, a growing working age population. We see every year, new graduates, new talents entering the labor market, but there are few local employment opportunities actually to absorb this new workforce. So if well-managed labor migration could also be a solution there to provide more economic opportunities to the growing workforce and the young talents that enter every year the labor markets in Africa. And linked to that, of course, also the remittances. And here the World Bank estimated that in 2019, there were 49 billion US dollars transferred to sub-Sahara Africa in the form of remittances by African migrant workers. So that leads us to conclude that actually it could be a win-win, and that, African talents could perhaps, actually support in Europe where we need more talents to fill the jobs that we have. Can we move to the next slide? Of course, this is where COVID comes in. And unfortunately, COVID has affected all of us, but it definitely affected labor migration and labor mobility. In the short and in the longer term. Now, what will be the impact in the longer term? It's hard to say. But in the short term, of course, we clearly all see the consequences due to mobility restrictions. Many migrant workers couldn't actually enter Europe, particularly thinking of seasonal workers. Maya, could you mute your microphone? Sorry. We can hear you, so that's already a good sign. And of course, in general, the productivity crash, supply chain disruptions, even businesses that had to close, this all has an impact, and definitely an impact on migrants and migrant workers. But these are short-term impacts. And, with the vaccine coming, we're all hopeful that things might get back to normal. And I do think that in the long run, some of the needs that I talked about in terms of, the structure of our European labor markets, the aging population, these are structural factors that are probably not going to change. So I do think that in the long term, we will see and continue to see the need for labor migration in Europe. And I would even say that one thing that COVID-19 also demonstrated is how much we rely actually on Europe on labor migration, and that as soon as, due to the mobility restrictions, people couldn't come in, we started being concerned about, even our food supply, because we really need the migrants to come in our labor markets. Can we move to the next slide? Good. Now, what does the European policy say about migration and labor migration? Perhaps you've heard about this EU's new Pact on Migration and Asylum. It was actually launched on the 23rd of September, and this pact outlines the EU's thinking, the EU's policy on migration for the next few years. In this pact, there is also a chapter that's dedicated to attracting skills and talent. So the pact really also acknowledges, the need for Europe to attract these skills and talent, and it has a few proposals set around that. The first one is to revise some of the existing directives that we have in the legal framework. Perhaps you've heard about the Blue Card Directive or some other directives. So the EU wants to make it easier for foreign talent to come in. It wants to make it easier for employers to hire foreign talent, and for that we need to adjust some of the existing legal frameworks. But also the EU proposes to create talent partnerships with third countries, and talent partnerships would really be a cooperation between EU member states on the one hand and a partner country on the other hand, to enhance labor and skills mobility. And Africa is mentioned here as a particular priority region for the EU to create these talent partnerships. Now, how these talent partnerships will look like in practice, that's still to be seen, but it's clear already from the proposals in the pact that it's looking at a mutual beneficial partnership where we create also pathways for labor mobility, for skills mobility, for education, and others. And finally, there is also the idea announced in the pact to establish what they call an EU-wide talent pool to better identify and match skills. So the idea here is to have a talent pool of talents from Africa and other regions that could be matched with jobs that are available in Europe. Here, the pact is not very clear on how this would work in practice. The Commission is still looking into possible systems, for example, taking inspiration from points-based systems that exist in countries like Canada or Australia. But the Commission is also open to receive feedback and suggestions as they're working on this new package around labor migration. And there's actually a public consultation ongoing, which means that all stakeholders are invited to share their views on how the EU could better manage and enhance pathways for legal migration, for labor and skills mobility to the EU. So if you're interested, please check this out on the European Commission website and do share your views. The Commission is actually looking for good ideas on how to manage this better. So with this, I think we can move to the next slide, which is then to share a bit more about IOM's approach on labor and skills mobility. And on this slide, you can see a bit, the different regions where we work. You can see here more than 20 projects in Africa, of course, also several projects in Europe, different projects also in the MENA region, which includes North Africa, where we're working on labor and skills mobility more broadly. We can go to the next slide. Thanks a lot. The concept that we actually use to frame all our projects is the concept of skills mobility partnerships. And skills mobility partnerships are framed around bilateral or multilateral arrangements between states, relying on a multi-stakeholder approach. So definitely also relying on the private sector, on employers, and not just on the public authorities. And they focus on skills development and employment. So the approach is also to look not just at the migrants who will be employed, for example, in Europe, but also to provide opportunities for skills development for the local labor market. Can we go to the next slide? So here you see a bit all the different elements that would come in play when you want to establish a successful skills mobility partnership. And for us, this could also be a model for the future talent partnerships that the EU will establish. You see, of course, the two key players are, first of all, the migrant. It allows for career development. It allows for skills development if migration takes place in a well-prepared, well-planned and safe manner. So we really want, with the skills mobility partnerships, to promote legal pathways for talents to come to Europe. And on the other hand, of course, the benefits for the countries, for the states, to better match skills with supply, contribute to economic growth and so forth. And this goes both for the countries of origin and the countries for destination, because with the skills mobility partnerships, we also focus on skills development for the local labor market. And of course, you will see here also all the different aspects ranging from the skills recognition, which is often a difficult point, local development and job creation, the data systems, the multi-stakeholder engagement, and everything else that is needed. So what does this mean in practice? And we can go to the next slide, please. Here I have for you two examples of IOM projects that illustrate our approach around the skills mobility partnerships. The first one is a project that was implemented between Belgium and Tunisia, a pilot project that allowed for young Tunisian talents to spend some time in Belgium and do an internship in Belgian companies. It was targeting young graduates who were unemployed, so who had a diploma, but unfortunately couldn't find a job in Tunisia, often because precisely they lacked work experience. So we offered them this first work experience in Belgium, but then also offered them the possibility to continue with a second internship in Tunisia. So it was a circular mobility scheme, which was quite successful in the sense that all the young Tunisians who participated in the project actually afterwards also found employment. Good enough, also some of the talents who participated and worked for Belgian companies actually inspired some of the Belgian companies to open a business or a branch in Tunisia, and then employed also the young talents in their own company in Tunisia. So it was a side effect of the project, but very much appreciated that actually it also led to investments in Tunisia. You will see here a video. There's no time to show it now, but if you search on YouTube enhancing Tunisian youth employability, you will find this nice video sharing some experiences from the youth who participated in this. And if we can move to the next slide. Here you will see another example, which is our Match project. And I think Maya can tell a bit more about that as we go. But basically, this is a project where we're enhancing the mobility of African talents to 4 EU member states. So we have Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and Italy. And on the other hand, we have in Africa, Senegal and Nigeria. And this is a scheme where we focus on identifying African talents who can fill some of the needs that we have in companies in the different EU member states, but also how we can, of course, also use the skills that the young talents gain through this experience to benefit the countries back in Africa, and how we can create these exchanges between Africa and Europe on labor and skills mobility. But I leave it to Maya later on to explain a bit more about the Match project and how this actually works. So we can move next. Since our time is short, I will just conclude with a few lessons we have learned so far from these labor and skills mobility projects that IOM has been piloting. And I'm sure Mirjam will also tell more about their experience, and perhaps some of the lessons are probably going to be similar. The first one is that we feel such projects should really be demand-driven. And with that, we mean that it has to really focus also on the needs that we have from the employers, from the private sector. If we want to move beyond pilots, there has to be also a strong investment of employers into such schemes. And this is where we have to start with, first of all, creating the awareness, also making sure everyone understands what are the benefits of well-managed labor migration. Unfortunately, today, there's still, a lot of negative narrative around migration. If you read the news, you see something on migration, it's more likely to be negative than positive. And this is something we have to change, because migrants and African migrants in particular, they make such an important contribution to Europe and to our economy. So we have to really create this awareness. As I already mentioned, part of it is also the skills assessment, the skills recognition, which are often a bit complex, and more has to be done here to make these processes smoother. But more generally, I think the length of procedures sometimes are also making it difficult for employers to actually hire African talents or talents from elsewhere. If the procedures are too long and too complex, employers might be discouraged. So I think here is an important lesson, both for the EU and the member states, to see how can we make such procedures, administrative procedures, as smooth and as easy as possible. Then there's, of course, the question of the job matching. How do we ensure that we find the right person for the right job? Again, schemes can only be sustainable if there is a good match. And the question is also to make sure we have, the right institutions on board to be responsible for this job matching, which can be public employment services, but also private recruitment agencies, especially if we're looking for very specialized profiles, IT, for example, or others. And then, of course, the question is also, we talk a lot about skills and diplomas, but it's more than that. It's more than the hard skills, and it's more than the diploma. Often it's also the soft skills that are really important. And feedback that we get from employers is that, okay, maybe the technical skills are good enough, but the soft skills are often, more difficult, because it's a question also of sometimes cultural differences, coming on time, working in teams, how do you interact with colleagues? These are very much cultural defined, which is also how we learned that actually, we shouldn't only focus on the diploma, but we should also focus on the soft skills and prepare candidates that would come for such placements also in that regard. So I think I will stop here with a few lessons. I'm sure the other speakers will add more to that. I'm afraid also I cannot stay much longer due to other commitments, but I thank you so much for your interest, and it was a pleasure for me to contribute to this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Geertrul, for joining us and for racing through a very interesting presentation in record speed. We'll make sure the audience have access to your slides and the ability to follow up after. For the sake of time, let's transition immediately to Mirjam Zimmermann, who is our representative from the Africa Kommt program. She's the project manager there and can give an overview of the project and lessons learned after more than a decade of implementation of this program. We're all very interested to hear. So over to you, Mirjam.
As Mia introduced me, I am a project manager at the Africa Kommt program, and today I would like to give you an overview of what Africa Kommt is, then also share some insights why companies join our program here in Germany. I would also like to introduce you to two of our success stories and also share some lessons learned, and they actually fit very well together with what was just presented. So just go to the next slide, please. So Africa Kommt has been around since 2008 already, and it's an initiative of German industry for future leaders from Africa. What does that mean? Our program tries to connect young, visionary African professionals with German companies who then together build up cooperations in different sectors. So until now, we have had 242 fellows from 25 countries in Africa, in altogether 9 intakes. The next intake, the 9th intake, is just going to start now in February, and we're very much looking forward to host again 39 fellows in Germany. Over those 12 years, we have worked together with 32 companies and 3 foundations. So yeah, a big network has been emerging through this program. How does Africa Kommt work? At the heart of the program is a 1-year stay for the African fellows in Germany. But prior to that, of course, they need to be chosen, and this happens in very close cooperation with our partner companies. So together with the partner companies, they define profiles of the candidates, and through an online application, African professionals can apply. They have to go through a thorough selection process, including an assessment center that also very much focuses on leadership skills, on soft skills. And then when finally the batch is chosen, we prepare those candidates to come to Germany with, for example, a German language course that also continues when they arrive to Germany. And in Germany, they also receive trainings regarding management, intercultural competencies. And then the real core of the program is an 8-month stay in the partner company where the fellows experience the day-to-day business of a German company. This whole program is supplemented by additional elements such as a study tour, weekend seminars, networking events, etc. After this 1 year is over, the fellows are, of course, still a part of the network. They become alumni and continue to contribute to projects, to events, etc. Please go, yes, the next slide, perfect. I have already mentioned that we work together with different German companies. Who are they? Here you can see some of them on the slides. These are the companies that we currently work together with for the last and the current intake. So our partner companies are very big, leading German companies, but they come from very different sectors. So from the pharmaceutical sector, focused more on technology, but also automobile industry, or from agriculture. The important thing to note here is that Africa Kommt is a private sector initiative. And this means the whole program is governed and also financed by the participating companies. We as GIZ, the German Development Corporation, we implement the program on behalf of the companies, and our program also receives political support from the Federal Foreign Office in Germany and the President's Office. And yes, and what do our partner companies say when they think of Africa Kommt and how Africa contributes to their strategy? I brought you 3 quotes that do highlight a few points here. For example, the first one here you can see Zimmermann. She's the Africa Kommt representative at SAP. and she explains that Africa Kommt fits perfectly into the strategy of SAP and their growth plan in Africa. For the second quote, this is Professor Krosse. He is the former CEO of B. Braun and also president of SAFRI. This is the Sub-Saharan initiative of German industry in Germany. And he outlines that Africa Kommt is a very important tool for B. Braun to establish a long-term partnership with Africa. And a third quote, to give you some really first-hand insight, is Mr. Raschke. He is a member of the board at Robert Bosch, one of the founding companies of Africa Kommt, and he states that Africa is a very important market for German companies, but of course also for companies from other European countries. And so it is important to have the right team on site to venture into Africa, and here Africa Kommt comes in. So you can already see some of the points that are important for companies, and I've tried to sum them up a bit more concisely. So 8 reasons why companies join Africa Kommt. These are, for example, they want to gain access to the markets in Africa and are looking for to establish networks there and to find the right partners on the ground. In addition, a couple of our partner companies, they're very much focused on innovation as they're technology-based companies and are always looking for new ideas, new concepts, and also then to bring people in. Another very important topic over the last years for German companies has been diversity and inclusion in the companies, and also some companies see here Africa Kommt as a tool to increase diversity in the companies. In addition, there are some other reasons why companies join. For example, companies can position themselves as actors for the Sustainable Development Goals and also show that they are able to shape the future of Africa, of Germany, and the relation between the two together. Of course, after the program, there are different options of engagement, how the companies can continue the cooperation with the fellows. So this is very attractive for the companies. And last but not least, they can also take part in high-level networking events, for example, also with political partners such as the German president. To fill this with a bit more life, I would like to share 2 success stories with you. The first one is the story of Winnie Munene. She is one of our alumni from Kenya. She took part in the program in 2015, and she did her fellowship with Merck, a pharmaceutical company. And after the end of the program, she returned to Kenya, and there for Merck, she set up Curafa and pioneered this whole setup. Curafa is an integrated healthcare facility concept. So here at one location, Merck offers affordable and accessible quality healthcare for underserved communities, especially in rural areas. And now in only 2 years, this project has reached more than 100,000 people in Kenya. The key to success for Curafa was that Winnie, as an Africa Kommt alumni, she was able to connect the German and Kenyan stakeholders. So she had the knowledge how business worked in Germany, and on the other hand, she had the right connections to Kenyan stakeholders and was able to put them together to really ensure a successful project implementation. Another success story that I would like to mention from a different sector is the story of Patrick. Patrick was a fellow at Andreas Stiel in 2014, I think. And after the end of the program, he returned to Kenya, where he continued to work for Andreas Stiel as a consultant. He did his job so well that the market share in the region increased, and he was able to set up the first subsidiary for the company there. He's now heading the office as a managing director and oversees the whole steel market presence in East Africa. Through this engagement, the company has been able to empower local farmers to improve their farming mechanisms, and through this also to increase their yield, their yearly harvest. So these are just 2 success stories I wanted to share. I could tell you some others, also from West Africa, where for example, 2 alumni set up an office for B. Brown. I could continue to go on here, but thanks to time, I would now stick to share some lessons learned with you that we realized throughout the last years that we run this program. So for us, it has been very important that the program is owned by the private sector. This ensures that the companies, our partner companies, are very committed to the program, and they want it to be successful. Another point that also was mentioned in the first presentation was, for us, the selection of the fellows has been very crucial. It is very important for us to guarantee a good fit between company and fellow to ensure that the expectations from both sides are met. In addition, for us, it has been important to adapt the program to needs of the partner companies. So we're continuously improving our project, our program, through regular feedbacks from the companies, but also from the fellows. And through this process, Africa Kommt has really become part of the strategy of some of the partner companies who now participate for more than 10 years. So this is really a success story for the program as such. What shows also the worth of the program is its strength to respond to moments of crisis, like now with COVID-19, where the network was able to respond very fast, also started some projects between fellows, alumni and companies, for example. And then last but not least, we as GIZ are the counterpart for the companies, so kind of the neutral instance, let's say, and are a reliable partner with our network also in Africa for the successful implementation of this program. I'm sure I could not cover everything, but I'm happy to answer some questions afterwards if we still have time, and if not, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mirjam, and also for putting such an interesting program into a very small presentation. It doesn't really do it justice, but I like the success stories that you highlighted, the attributes both from the German knowledge, but also the network and the familiarity with the country of origin, and being able to bridge these together for the strength of the fellow's career. You could really see how that experience in Germany made an impact on their career in their home country. So I think for now we can move on to what we had originally planned to present first, which is to introduce the match project, and then we can come back to Mirjam with some questions and answers. So I do encourage the audience to put questions and comments in the chat function to the right, and we can come back to them. And for now, I will ask Myrthe to share the presentation for the match project. So we didn't have time to do an introduction at the beginning, but my name is Mckenzie, and I work for the International Organization for Migration in The Hague in the Netherlands. And we work closely with our partner NABC, represented here by Myrthe van der Gaast. And we are the duo for the match project in the Netherlands. But as you can see on this slide, it is a project that we implement in 4 EU member states, as well as 2 African nations, and that is Nigeria and Senegal. And within Europe, it is Luxembourg, Belgium, Italy, and the Netherlands. So we launched this project at the start of this year, and little did we know there was going to be a global pandemic. So we've had to think on our feet and come to innovative solutions, much like everybody else. But this is a 3-year project, and the idea is to facilitate a circular mobility scheme to address key labor shortages in these 4 EU member states. And much like Mirjam's outline for Africa Kommt, this is a demand-driven project. So it is based off the demand of employers in those 4 EU member states. It's a pilot. It's the first time that we have initiated this, which is why we've started with just the 2 African countries, Nigeria and Senegal. And if this is a success, of course, we'd love to grow it further, but we're starting with the 2. And we will be, we're currently pre-selecting Nigerian and Senegalese job seekers to fill labor shortages that have been expressed by employers in Europe. So companies come to us with their vacancies that they're struggling to fill with existing labor within the EU. And we act as the bridge toward the 2 countries in Africa. This is also a way for us to highlight Africa's potential. A lot of companies in Europe are very familiar with international recruitment. They even have their own recruitment schemes, but they're more familiar with recruiting from South America or Asia. But I think Africa often gets overlooked. And through this project, we're really trying to highlight the potential of Africa and making it easier for companies to tap into this rather under-tapped, underexplored source of highly skilled talent. And then obviously on an individual level, but also the company and hopefully at the national level, through the Match project, we hope to see knowledge transfer and development, because the candidates will be coming to Europe for work placements as soon as COVID allows them to do so, and contributing to EU member states, to the economies and to our communities, bringing their knowledge and also enjoying some experiences here in Europe. So upskilling, enhancing their knowledge, gaining some cultural competence before they return to their home country at the end of their work placement. Thank you, Myrthe. So just again to highlight some points that Geertrul and Mirjam have also mentioned about the potential of Africa, that it is often looked at as an under-tapped resource of highly skilled talent. And I'm sure everybody's very, very familiar with this, the idea that not only the Netherlands, but Europe is suffering from key labor shortages, and this is due to our demographics. But it's also the way that the economy is changing. And with or without COVID, there has been a need for talent in certain sectors of our economies. And so we think it's overdue, this scheme to facilitate more efficient recruitment of highly skilled nationals from Africa to fill these labor shortages. Thanks, Myrthe. So COVID-19, we can't really complete this presentation without addressing COVID-19, because the Match project facilitates circular mobility. It is about the physical movement of highly skilled nationals from Nigeria and Senegal to commit to work placements in the 4 EU member states. And this, as per the original plan, was the physical movement of the candidates, of course, to enter the companies in Europe. But it actually has given us a silver lining. As I said, it allowed us to innovate and to use this time to think creatively. And we are using this time as an incubation period. So this is working in our favor. It allows us to spend more time preparing the candidates, the job seekers, for their arrival, but also for the host companies to become more familiar with the candidates who are coming, particularly if they're not familiar with recruiting from Africa. So we're investing during this incubation period into cultural and logistical preparations, obviously, upskilling, mentoring, and training the candidates before they arrive in Europe, facilitating remote work, so allowing them to work for the European company. We are hosting job fairs, hackathons, and virtual missions, and we're working on some plans for 2021. Obviously, it allows the European companies to have a foothold in Africa. They now have an employee in Senegal or Nigeria as a representation of their company, and this can definitely be used to their advantage in terms of networking and representation. And as one final measure, we are also, because of COVID, open to recruiting Senegalese and Nigerian nationals who are based within the EU. So not only those who are based in Africa, but those who are based in the EU can participate in this project. Thanks, Myrthe. So what does this mean for employers who are interested? And maybe in the audience there are some job seekers with Nigerian and Senegalese background who are interested in the Match project. The first thing is to, as an employer, to contact us, have an initial discussion about your company's needs. This is a tailor-made project, and like I said, it's demand-driven. The project is very flexible around the needs of your company, and each company has different recruitment needs and a different company culture. So flexibility really is key. When you share your vacancies and your skill profiles with us, we then utilize the recruitment agency called Aldalia. Now, this is also interesting for the job seekers here. Aldalia are the human resources intermediary that we work with, and they have a huge pool of talent. So with your skills, with your vacancies and skill profiles, we utilize Aldalia to identify the best candidates for your needs. We then prepare the candidates specifically based on your recruitment needs, and we also provide cultural orientation training to the candidates, but also to your company in advance of the match. From here, you can also explore different opportunities. We hope to have a delegation travel to both Nigeria and Senegal as soon as possible with companies, with interested companies to physically see the talent in these two countries. And upon the end of the pre-selection phase, there is a shortlist provided to the company. So in the end, the decision is always made by the company. We do the pre-selection, we do the screening, but then it's really up to the company at the end to make the final decision whether they want to recruit. And this process is free of charge, and there's no obligation to recruit. As mentioned, for those job seekers who are interested, we can make sure you receive access to the Aldalia website. They use a platform called Ariba Jobs, and you can upload your profile already and then express your interest in participating in the Match project. So I have really raced through my presentation, which may generate some questions from the audience, also for Mirjam, and I have Myrthe here as well to help us with the question and answers. So I have some questions for Mirjam, but I want to also open the floor for the audience. We already had a question earlier from somebody asking how many people we have already matched within the Match project. And I think I'm going to give this the floor to Myrthe to just give an overview of how we have progressed with the Match project and what we've been doing in these last weeks and how things are going.
Yes, thank you, Maya. Thank you as well from the audience for your question. So as Maya explained, due to the COVID situation, we have adapted the Match project to really fit the nature and the needs of companies at this moment. And one of those options is really looking into having companies work working with people remotely, companies that are interested in hiring someone to start their local branch. So we are currently in the process of finding suitable candidates for a couple of Dutch companies that have expressed interest. So for the Netherlands, we are in total going to pre-select 80 candidates for the 3 years. But the total number of projects will be 210, and that is for the EU, all the 4 EU participating countries. But of course, we're very eager to be placing even more candidates, and hopefully, just like the Africa Kommt project, it will be wonderful if we are also able to continue this project for 12 years and make sure that it's completely demand driven and maybe even expand to other countries as well. So right now we're just focusing on West Africa, but we see many more potential in other regions in Africa as well, from north to south to central. So really looking forward to that as well.
Thanks, Myrthe, and for filling in some of the gaps I might have missed in my presentation too. That's great. I have a question for Mirjam. After 12 years of working, I mean, that's really a testament to your success and the trust that you've built with some quite impressive companies in Germany. What would be your advice to companies in the Netherlands that are interested in recruiting from Africa?
I would advise them to start trying. Africa Kommt also started as a pilot 12 years ago, and nobody knew that it would be so successful. And what I can just say also personally, I'm always impressed how great the people are that we can gain for the program. They're really so talented, so visionary, so innovative, and our partner companies are convinced that these are the right people to take on. So I would just advise to give it a try.
Thanks, Mirjam. And to, I think, both of you, actually, we've spoken a bit about the economic benefits of tapping into Africa. Are there other benefits that you can outline at both the company level but also national level in terms of diversifying your labor force?
I can start. So maybe one point that has been important for our partner companies, but also it's more on a personal level, is that our fellows, they offer different perspectives. And this is a very valuable thing they bring into the companies, but also in our lives in general. They reflect on things that we might take as granted. This can be in the personal life, but also in the companies. And they might question things that seem very normal to us. And this just brings something very valuable, which is a different perspective to the table.
Yeah, I would very much like to agree on what you said, Mirjam. We also see that in many of the conversations that we have with companies is that they see the added value of working with local talents, because right now, I'm just speaking here from the Dutch context. We are already, as Dutch companies, doing a lot of business in Africa. There's a lot of trade going on, but we're not yet looking so much into tapping into the human capital that is available. And there's so much added value when you work with people who have an understanding about the local consumers, what they're interested in, and being able to connect with that as well, because as we all know, I mean, Africa is really booming. It's starting to grow so much. We have so much talent going on in Nigeria. You have hubs coming up, and yeah, we really try to say, like, please try not to even miss this boat and work together with local people who have this understanding and who can bring diversity to your team and avoid having some tunnel perspective. By always working with people from the same background. So it's not just the technical skills here that very often we try to highlight. Like, yes, there are a shortage of, for example, ICT professionals on the European market, but it's also having all these different unique perspectives that really are from a company perspective really beneficial.
Yeah, the hybrid of bringing together different experiences, I think, is the strength of any company, really. I'm aware of the time. I have one last question, and I don't see any new questions in the chat. But shall we finish off with one last question? And it's often one that we're asked, Myrthe. It's about brain drain. Because both Africa Kommt and Match are targeting highly skilled nationals from Africa, how do we combat brain drain, and how do we even ensure that not only we combat brain drain, but we ensure that our projects contribute to development in Africa? Would you like to go first, Mirjam?
Yes, I can. So for Africa Kommt, we have realized that brain drain as such, at least for our program, it's not really an issue in the sense that most fellows, they want to return to Africa and want to bring their knowledge and their skills they might have built upon their time in Germany and bring it back. And we have some great examples here of alumni who started their own companies now creating jobs on the ground. So just having some real impact here and transferring the knowledge. And even those that might have stayed here in Germany, sometimes they're now in, for example, in a director's position in one of the German companies and shaping the strategy for Africa, but in Germany. And I think it is very important to see the benefit they can have in such a position, to also include African professionals in a global discussion and not just talking about them, but including them in decisions that really affect them on a day-to-day basis.
Yes. I think this is an interesting discussion as well, and it's valid to a certain extent. But what we try also to do with Match is really not just highlighting here the opportunity for the professionals to contribute and work for the company here, but we also focus on upscaling their skills. So in addition to just having the work experience and offering interesting solutions or options when they actually return, they similar as the Africa Kommt program are able to maybe even continue their work for the company in the Netherlands, for example, when they started working at the headquarters in the Netherlands, and this company might have a local branch as well, then this company could, for example, continue their work in the local context. And we see there's many benefits of that, of having these people trained in the Netherlands, understanding also the Western perspective of how these companies operate, and then return and become kind of like an ambassador of this company, able to combine the perspectives of both the people at the headquarters as well as the local context as well. So I think it's all about creating interesting incentives for people from both sides to a certain sense still be connected to each other, but also having the opportunities in the local context as well.
Yeah, I think the key word here is opportunity. It's opportunity from all sides, for the candidate, for the employer, for the host company, the staff and the colleagues, and also for Europe. This is an opportunity to grow and to recover from the economic downturn. So I do urge those who are interested to reach out to the three of us if you're interested in the respective projects that we've mentioned today. I'm afraid we are over time because of the delay that we faced at the beginning. I think from here we can finish up. I pass over to Myrthe if you have any final closing words. And I thank Mirjam very much for joining. And like I said, we'll make sure that Mirjam's slides will be. Thanks, Myrthe.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just going to keep it very short, and that I want to thank on behalf of the whole NABC team. I want to thank you, Mirjam, as well as Geertrul, who had to leave a little bit earlier, for really sharing, very insightful your experiences. In this case, the Africa Kommt, all the companies that have joined, and we hope that for Dutch companies, this is also giving them new perspectives and ideas of how working with African talents can be very beneficial for them. And similar as the slogan of the Digital Africa Business Days is really moving forward together and co-creating solutions for challenges in Europe and Africa during and after COVID. We hope that with projects such as Match and Africa Kommt, we can keep connecting those two both worlds and really to come out of this situation much stronger. So I want to thank our audience for tuning in. Please know that this session has been recorded, so we will be able to share the recording with you as well as the slides. So for now, thank you very much, and I wish you a lovely afternoon.